What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. You know who it is. Your boy John.
Fucking white belt slayer. What's up, dog?
It's going. It's going. Today we got something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about, jiu-jitsu for beginners. So if you're watching this and you're interested in jiu-jitsu and you're wondering, should I start? Shouldn't I start? When should I start? We're going to give you a little breakdown, a little guide, if you will. Save you some time from YouTube and going down rabbit holes and listening to the wrong advice. So whether you're going to be going to class tomorrow for the first time or you're just planning on it, we got you. Right?
So this was written by ChatGPT. John tried to hit me with some bullshit, trying to say he did some research.
Listen.
And then I was like, by research you mean ChatGPT?
Listen.
So I'm already seeing errors in this.
Listen.
Because I am a true historian.
There's no errors in this. We're going to go about it. We'll see.
Let me break you off right here. The Kodokan is not ancient.
It is ancient. It's been around a long time.
Since like the 1870s. It's like 150 years.
Probably longer than that.
No, I looked it up before. We talked about it on here before. Judo's not that old.
Yeah, but before judo, they were using it for the samurais.
The Kodokan is the original school of judo.
Yeah, but how long have the samurais been around?
Not that long, like the 1700s, when the samurais were popping.
That's ancient to me.
That's not ancient.
Sounds ancient to me.
Oh
ancient to you, ancient to me.
Think about this. When the samurais were cracking off in Europe, or in Japan, that's when the Wild West was happening here.
It was before that.
No, it wasn't.
It was before that.
No, it was not.
I have to look this up. Anyways, let's get into the fucking podcast. Over here distracting the meat and potatoes here. The meat and the motherfucking potatoes.
You're the one that's supposed to be intelligent.
I'm lazy. I thought we've established this. I do the bare minimum to maintain.
That's why your boy's weighing like 230 right now.
You?
You, motherfucker. I wish I weighed 230. I'm like 260 right now.
Anyways.
260 straight muscle, homie. Straight diesel. Jack.
When we start talking about jiu-jitsu.
Not even spelled right.
We start talking about it's spelled right. What are you talking about?
No, where it talks about like the Japanese version jiu-jitsu, that's the Brazilian way to spell it.
I don't give a fuck. Anyways, we started talking about grappling in general.
Okay,
right?
Grappling.
Grappling has been around fucking forever. If you look back at was it the Greeks? They used to do wrestling in the nude. In the nude.
You can't even read your own shit. It starts in Mesopotamia, which is older than Greece.
I know. I'm not. These are just guidelines. I'm just talking about it, bro.
Jesus Christ.
But yes, you're right.
Yeah.
About 4,000 years ago, grappling is pretty much. I think grappling has probably been around
forever.
It's part of human nature to you watch kids. What do? They fucking wrestle.
Yeah.
And I think it's just part of. Humanity is that wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about getting into jiu-jitsu, it's just something that is kind of ingrained in you, I think. As a kid, especially as a boy. Boys just fucking fight as kids, right? But yeah, like we were saying, I was saying, grappling in general, if you look back, and maybe you can go back further, but it's crazy to see during Roman times, during the Greek times, that was such a huge sport. Wrestling. What's that one Craig Jones was in?
I was just going to talk about that. That's that Turkish oil wrestling.
Yeah, where they put their hands in their pants and
grab those cheeks.
You grab those cheeks and do
someone posted about that. I think Tom the Boss posted about that yesterday.
He did.
But I don't think they're grabbing anything when they put their hands in their pants. I think what they're doing is they're making a fist.
I was thinking the same thing.
Your hands can't come out.
I was thinking the same thing to make those movements
because they're oiled up.
Yeah, exactly.
They're all greased up.
Yep. I was looking at that video and I was thinking the same thing. Is that's probably what it is. They're just it's like rock climbing when you stick your hand in a rock.
Yeah,
and you make the fist so that you get stuck. That's kind of what
I think that's what it is.
Yeah. But
Craig talked about it because I think even fucking Luke Rockhold did it with him.
Luke Rockhold did it with him. They both did it together.
But someone was like, "Nah, that's gay. I ain't doing it."
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I mean, it is a little bit.
You ain't afraid to touch on it? I mean, you want to talk about gayer than that?
Jiu-jitsu?
No-gi.
No-gi, yeah, no-gi.
Gay as hell.
Yeah. You're right. But
especially 10th Planet.
And then when you look at jiu-jitsu itself, like we were talking about previous to this, it was kind of a spin-off of judo, I guess.
No, the other way.
Jiu-Jitsu was a spin-off of Judo was a spin-off of Jiu-Jitsu, something like that.
Okay, let me break you off real quick.
You break it off.
I don't even need this paper.
Just go for
Goddamn
it.
historian.
Go for it.
Okay, so Jiu-Jitsu was the hand-to-hand combat part of like the samurai's training.
Yes.
And it's like Jujitsu.
Yeah,
That's how it's spelled, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then that was like the self-defense, like the hand-to-hand part if you lost your sword
weapon
in the samurai's training, right?
Yes.
And then in like the late 1800s, 1850, 1817, something like that, the dude on here they talk about, what's his name?
Maeda?
No, not before Maeda, his teacher. The original dude.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I don't remember his
I
name.
just saw his name on here.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I don't know.
so the original dude, the guy that came up with the system of judo, emphasized on like the throwing section.
Yeah, got rid of the dangerous stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
no. He just emphasized on the throwing because he thought you wouldn't want to like just joint lock people, like you'd want to eat people. But he still taught all of it, but he took it and made it a system versus like how jiu-jitsu's a system or like boxing's a system. You know, there's wrestling is a system, or like folk style versus Greco-Roman. Those are different systems within wrestling, right, or within grappling. So that dude made judo this system, and then that's when he started the Kodokan. That's like the 1870s, right? And then I don't even think Maeda was directly one of his students. I think Maeda was one of his students.
Okay.
I think he was still running like the school or running Kodokan, but I think Maeda was like a secondary student, right? He wasn't actually a direct student with the original guy. And then what they don't talk about in here, which I just didn't see real quick, is Maeda actually came to the U.S. first.
Oh, did he? For a short stint, right? Like it was like a short...
No, he was here. So for some reason, Maeda left Japan. I don't know if he was like under like bad shit or whatever, but he left Japan and he went around teaching grappling, kind of like a circus.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
So he goes
traveled the world.
Yeah, he goes around teaching grappling, and
that was like the original challenge everybody.
Yeah. And so you'll see him listed as Mitsutoyo Maeda.
Yeah.
And then you'll also see him listed as Kandi Koma. It's the same guy.
Oh, okay.
So Kandi Koma means like the count of death or something like that.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's like
he had a nickname.
Yeah, that's what everyone called him because
Yeah.
he was like the Japanese champion.
Yeah.
So he went around the world, or at least around the Americas, teaching grappling, and he came to the U.S. first. And I only know that because I watched this video of Keenan going on a 40-minute diatribe about how American Jiu-Jitsu is older than Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And he could have been making this proof up because I didn't look into it, but he's like, look at these fucking newspaper articles from 1820, 1830, 1840 before going before it was in Brazil. Sorry, not the 18s, like the early 1900s, like 1901, 1902.
The early 1900s is when he went into Brazil.
Yeah, he was,
So
but he was
he was
here
probably,
directly
like, right
before
before
that.
that, yeah.
He was here directly before that, and then he went to Japan, and Japan and Brazil had like a really close connection, like through like dignitaries and diplomats and stuff like that. So Maeda was kind of like a diplomat, right? Kind of just teaching about Japan, because that was was like right after I think feudalism in Japan is when they started kind of branching out and like stopped being isolated. I think. So he goes down there, and he actually taught up north first. I don't know what state, but like somewhere kind of where Omar's from, like up in like Manaus or Pará or whatever.
Right.
Like
So
there.
now we're talking about where the history of Jiu-Jitsu evolves in Brazil, where it kind of explodes.
So we're gonna break it off into Jiu-Jitsu, into Gracie Jiu-Jitsu.
Correct.
Right? So he started up there, and he taught judo up there, and then he came down south, and this is where it gets hazy because I think the Gracies are from Belém. I think that's how you say it. They're not from Rio.
Correct.
So that's up north. So somehow
He met up with Carlos Gracie.
Carlos and like these four other dudes, they went there. So like the Gracies, it would be like their great grandfather. The dad of Carlos was like a dignitary, and he was like a businessman. So he had money, and he was able to take him to these classes or whatever, right? And I don't think they really even got very far with Maeda. They learned judo, and then they really liked judo, right?
Right, and then they modified.
No. It's still not the modification part yet. So they were teaching judo, but they knew that it came from another martial art called jiu-jitsu, and they wanted to separate themselves. So at some point, those couple dudes, because there's Carlos and there's another older brother, I can't think of his name, those dudes, even to split it even further, So they're kind of getting taught. And I think this is before Helio's born, because Carlos is significantly older than Helio. And for some reason, I don't know if the family was poor or something happened with the family, and Helio was like a foster kid. He went off to like a foster home. And Carlos left. Carlos was older. He was already living his life. And when Helio was around 15 or 16, Carlos found him and said, hey, come live with me. And what they did for a business is they had this school. It would be like the original Gracie Academy, and they were teaching judo. But they didn't want to say they were teaching judo because judo is popular.
Yeah.
So they were like, let's make up our own thing. We're teaching jiu-jitsu. And they spelled it differently, probably just because the language, right? So they spelled it differently, and I believe they called it Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, right? So it was a different thing, but it wasn't. It was just judo, right? And it still, from what I understand, it still wasn't systemized like Jiu-Jitsu was when Helio came. So this is where you get into the gray area, and this is the real gray part of the history of Jiu-Jitsu as I've read about it. I've done a lot. We didn't prepare for this.
No.
I've read about this a lot.
Yeah.
If I like shit, I'll read into it, right? So they're teaching this version of judo, right? And they're calling it Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And like if you look at all the Gracie Umaita stuff, or you look at all the OG stuff, it says 1925.
Right.
That may not be a real date, but that's the year they used that they opened the first school was 1925, right? So Helio was really young then. I think they opened that school in Berlin, and then they moved it down south to Rio. For some reason, they moved to Rio. And then when Helio came with them, he was already 15 or 16. Carlos, the other brother, and the third guy are already teaching there. And Helio is just like kind of like mopping the floors, and he just kind of works there, right? Because, I mean, there's no labor laws then. He was underage. Yeah. That's what he did. I think they all lived there, this building, right? So Helio's learning the system, but he was like a sickly person. Like there was something wrong with him. And he's learning the system of what they're teaching, and he really kind of mentally grabbed on to the ground aspect of things, right? Because he was small. I think even when Helio died, he was like 150 pounds. He was a light guy, right?
Yeah.
He's not much bigger than Omar.
Right.
Like, you know, because if you look at Hoyler's not very big, right?
Yeah.
I think he was like a skinny version of Hoyler.
Yeah.
So he starts kind of learning this mentally. I don't think he even trained. He just learned it mentally, and maybe it was like shadow boxing, right? You know, doing like it like by himself.
Yeah.
And one day he was there at the academy. I think he's like around 18, 19. He's younger still. And they only did privates. They didn't do classes. It was only privates, one-on-one teaching.
I thought they had classes, but you had to do a bunch of privates first.
I think this was before that.
Oh, okay.
I think this was before they had classes. So they're teaching the privates. They're teaching like this martial art. And Carlos is supposed to teach a private. But I think Carlos was already kind of disconnected from this. He was moving on to other things. Like if you look at the life of Carlos, I haven't read a lot into it, but at some point he kind of stopped being a martial artist and switched into being like a philosopher. So he was like at the end of his life, he was a philosopher, teaching about diet and like lifestyle and faith and all this stuff and whatever. So this dude shows up. I think he's like a doctor, like a pretty prominent person in Rio. Shows up, and Carlos doesn't show up for the thing. And Helio's like, well, I'll teach the private for you. And he's like, okay. So he starts teaching him all the stuff that he likes. Like I would assume he probably taught the cross collar choke, because if you go back, they didn't call it the cross collar choke. They called it the Helio choke.
And this is that point where
this is in the 40s.
When he comes back, he specifically asked for Helio to teach him because he liked the way he taught instead of having Carlos teach him.
Yeah. So this is like in the 40s, I think, or maybe even the 50s. This is not like 1925. This is the 40s, I think, 40s or 50s. And so Helio starts teaching this other version of jiu-jitsu, which they really turned into Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So So if you look back and people say, I'm from the Carlos side, I'm from the Helio side, the Carlos side doesn't exist. It's fake. Carlos Gracie Jr. exists, but Carlos Gracie Jr. is from Helio.
Yeah.
Right? It's from Helio. So there's no Carlos side.
Yeah. It's
all from Helio. The system we do now versus like, if you're looking at like the modern shit, like 10 Planet or New Wave, all that shit, it comes from Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. It comes from Helio.
Yeah.
So that's where Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu starts, is in this gray area of the 40s, I think it is.
Yeah.
And that's when it became a system, and Gracie Jiu-Jitsu was really born.
Yeah.
So that's why I personally have a hard time looking at Carlos as a father of jiu-jitsu. He's not.
Yeah.
Helio is the father of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. And then coming out of that, you go down to the 1990s or whatever, and they want, you know, it's not exploding yet, but it's becoming more popular, right? And then
I think even before the 90s. No, it was cracking like in the late 70s.
Yeah, but this is when it really exploded. Is when Horion came together
here in the 80s
and made the UFC though.
Yeah, so if we even go before then, so at some point, I think it's like the late 70s. So let's go back even further than that. So at some point they start doing schools. They start running like an actual school where there's people training with each other, right? So you had to do privates, and then from the privates you can get graduated into these group classes because people were voicing to Helio and probably to Carlos, I think he was still around at this point, saying we like the group classes. We want to fight each other, basically, right? So they start running these group classes. And it kind of starts exploding, right? But at the same time this is going on, there's guys in other places teaching the same thing. And they're not...
This is when there was, like, blue belts teaching. And having a blue belt...
No. These are, like...
Oh, you're talking about different variations.
There is this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu thing that is not blowing up, but is gaining steam in Brazil, and it's not all from the Gracies.
Right.
So, like, if you want to say you're from a different branch, there's, like, 2 other guys that you can legit say you're from that branch. So, like, when we had Leo on here, Leo's wife, Sabrina, her professor is from that other branch. He's not from any of the Helio lineage. So there's, like, 2 or 3 legit lineages that you could put. It's Helio and these 2 other guys. I can't think of their name right now. But they also learned from Maeda and Maeda's guy. So they were teaching judo, but at some point
it evolved.
Because of the Gracies, it evolved into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So there's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu didn't exist as a name until the 90s in the US. It was always called Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and then whatever those other guys were calling it. I think they were just calling it Jiu-Jitsu. Which is the original name, but going back, the origin of our system through judo to Brazil, right? Yeah. So they're teaching this style, right? And then for some reason in the late 80s or the early 80s or the late 70s, Horion comes to the U.S. Horion starts teaching in his garage, and because he's an exotic dude, what do you think about Horion or what, it doesn't matter. If you listen to that motherfucker, he can talk.
Yeah.
He is a charismatic motherfucker, right? Yep. So he went from Brazil, I think, straight to South Bay in LA. And he started meeting like actors and producers and movie stars, and he became like this guru teaching jiu-jitsu out of his house. And there's like these stories of people like, hey, there's this new form of grappling that some dude's teaching in his garage in Torrance. Let's go learn it. And this is like the military.
This was at a time when karate was huge.
Yes.
Karate tournaments were huge. Yeah. The Karate Kid just came out.
I think this is before that still.
Well, in the 90s. This is kind of all around that era, I'm saying.
Yeah.
But this is like peak kids looking at shit going, I want to fucking be a ninja. Yeah. You know, I want to fucking do this and that. So I think it was like the right time. Yeah. It just happenstance to be the right time to come in when martial arts was so popular. Yeah. I mean, you had it might still be around that Black Belt magazine.
Yeah,
it used to be like that used to be the gospel, you know, and stuff like that. So it was like the right time to bring something like that in. Yeah. And then he was actually, like you were kind of going to allude to, is the Gracie challenges and started where they were like, this is like, you come in, you test us, and we'll, you know, close the doors.
We're going to show you the difference.
Yeah, we're going to show you the difference, right? And then I mean, we got a lot more to talk about, so we maybe we'll do a whole history thing.
But even if you jump back further, the Gracie challenges were very early on.
Yeah,
the
in Brazil.
The 40s, 50s, 60s from Helio.
Yep.
So, like, a lot of people look over the shit that Helio did. Helio didn't win every match, but he never, like, decisively lost. I don't think he ever got knocked out or anything like that. He would lose from, like, exhaustion, because they would have, like, 4 or 5 hour fights.
No limit.
No time limit fights. The OG Vale Tudo stuff. Yeah. And Helio would fight anybody from what they make it seem like. It didn't. If you came to Brazil and you said, I'm going to fight Helio, he would show up and fight you if the money was right.
Yep.
If the money was right, he would show up and fight you. And he's old at this point.
And he's out there doing it.
He's like in his 50s. Yeah. Out there fighting. And then, you know, a real good sidetrack. Hoyler told us one time that if you I was talking to Sensei James about this the other day, but Helio's getting thrown when he's 50 or 60 years old every day. And Hoyler talked about if you can't get thrown, you shouldn't be an instructor.
Yeah, you shouldn't be an instructor.
Right? So, and his methodology or his thought on that came from
his dad.
Yeah, Hoyler's early teens, 12, 13, 14, and they go do a showcase before one of the Hickson fights when Hickson fights Zula.
Yep.
So they go do this self-defense or this Gracie Jiu-Jitsu showcase to show the art.
Kind of like a kata.
It's exactly a kata.
Yeah.
It's exactly that. So it's almost exactly the black belt kata from judo, by the way.
Oh, well.
So
essentially, for people listening, if you know what a kata is, it's kind of like a
demonstration
of moves. Kind of a flowing demonstration of moves.
And then Hoyler is throwing Helio over and over during this kata and joint locking him and doing all this stuff. And I think he said he didn't really realize it at the time, but Hoyler's 12, 13, 14, and he didn't tell him until that day, so he already knew all this stuff.
Correct.
And Helio is like 60.
Yeah. And still getting thrown.
So don't be a bitch. Go train judo. All right, go back to the history.
So, maybe we'll make a podcast straight on the history, but for now, I want to kind of move on to where it really kind of blew up globally was when
the UFC.
Hoyon started the UFC, and then Hoyler Hoist went out and basically beat everybody in the UFC, and that was kind of the pinnacle of where really someone people were watching and be like, holy crap, like this is legit. Like
Hoist won the first 3 or 4 or first 2?
I think 2 or maybe 3.
Yeah,
but he was up there.
But people started realizing that like what he was doing, and they kind of figured it out.
And at that time, you have to remember, it wasn't MMA. It was styles against style. Like it wasn't MMA wasn't a thing yet. It was just
MMA was a thing. So the Valley Tudo fights were MMA fights.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't official.
It wasn't a system like it is.
Yeah,
now.
It's not a system. Like you can go to an MMA gym and you're gonna learn a little bit of everything of the good shit.
Let me stop you again right there. So Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, air quotations if you're only listening, is MMA. Yes. It is not
original Gracie Jiu-Jitsu.
It is not sport Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah. Original Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is more self defense based.
It's
all self-defense.
It's all self-defense. So like a really good example of this is if you watch this show, go follow Jeff Glover. Jeff Glover's one of the OG Americans. Motherfucker's a savage, right? He's got a lot of weird checkered past, but he's trying to do better now, and he's a great follow, and he is legit one of the best Americans to ever do it, right? So this week he showed some stuff which someone asked him about jiu-jitsu for MMA, and he's like, well, I don't do MMA, so I don't know. But then he broke it down, and he says it in the beginning of it. If I was to do jiu-jitsu and MMA, I would do old school Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and he shows this what he would do, and it's exactly what Hoist did in UFC 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect segue into the next part of it, of why you should start training jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
And the very first thing is self-defense.
Yeah.
And going back to what you're saying, if you're looking at the original Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, it wasn't sport.
Yeah.
It was self-defense.
It's a fighting style. It's not even self-defense.
Style.
It's a martial art.
Yeah.
So if you break down that term, martial art, martial means war, right? So it's the art of war.
Yeah.
Right. We're looking to fight people.
So I personally think even today, if you go in and you learn sports jiu-jitsu, not anything else, just sport,
singular,
sport jiu-jitsu, whatever, and you end up in an altercation, there are so many benefits, not just the technique wise that you're going to be able to be ahead on, but technique wise, I think sport jiu-jitsu will work, And again, mixing things up, like you're not going to pull guard. You're going to go for a single leg. You're going to go for maybe a hip toss. You're going to go for a throw or something. You're not going to be pulling guard.
Oh, so you're going to be doing judo?
Judo, original, it all ties back, right?
Yeah.
So, or wrestling, however you want to call it. But
what sport jiu-jitsu trains you for in a real life scenario is how to manipulate another body.
Yes.
Right, and then how to think
controlling someone,
and
neutralizing the threat. And those are, I think, those are some of the top two things. Is maybe controlling someone is a little less because sometimes you want to fucking beat someone.
Well, that's control.
I mean, you don't have to though with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
how many events have you? How many videos have you seen where there's a black belt. He's out there in a real situation, and he's the only one not throwing punches.
Sure.
He's just controlling the person.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have to. He can.
Yep.
Like, I've seen videos where they just gift wrap people, and it's like, if he wanted to, but they don't.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's the benefit. But I think what you were getting to, too, is staying calm under pressure.
Yeah.
I think that's why police officers should 100% train, at least until blue belt, because what you'll notice if you watch police videos is the adrenaline dump, all that stuff's there, and then you feel that every day when you roll.
Yeah, and you know, you can't say 100% this, but a blue belt on the mats is a black belt in the streets. Tell you run
Against someone that's not.
Yeah.
Against someone that has zero experience. Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, when you roll, for you guys, if you guys are looking because you were interested in it, there's this point in your journey as a white belt. And we'll talk more about being a white belt and different belts here, but your training and your first 6 months, you just feel like you're just constantly being beat up.
Yep.
Constantly.
Maybe first year.
And you're like, I'm not getting any better. I'm not getting any better. And then someone new shows up, and then you roll with them, and then you're like, holy crap. It's like this there's a light bulb, or it's not even a light bulb, there's just this moment where you're like, oh man, this works.
Yeah.
Like, because that was me 4 months ago, 5 months ago, whatever it was. And now I'm in a position where, am I fucking beating blue belts and purple belts? No, but this is an untrained person, and that goes back to what you're saying, a blue belt in the streets.
Let me give John some flowers. There ain't no fucking blue belt in the schools giving you any problems.
No.
There's probably not.
But that's what I'm saying.
And there's probably 3 purple belts that give you a problem.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that as a white belt, like, there's that moment. That's what I was going to.
But you said 4 or 5 months ago. Oh, you were talking about. You were talking about. I see what you.
As a white belt,
I thought you were saying you.
No. As a white belt, with 4 or 5 months, and you look back and you're like, that was me 4 or 5 months ago.
You know, I have a pretty good story about this. I've said it before, so I won't get into all the details. But I was a pretty new blue belt, and I went to go hang out with some people, and they were talking shit that jiu-jitsu doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And we're on concrete. Mm-hmm. And I was like, it absolutely works. I'll fuck you up. No, you won't. We're going back and forth. And the person tries to shoot this, like, I don't know what he tried to do, but he tried to, like, pretend like he was going to single leg me. Mm-hmm. And I single legged him, took him down, put him in the technical mount, and basically took his back and was choking him. And then I let him go because I didn't want him to go to sleep. And then he spins around in the guard and starts trying to pretend like he's throwing punches. And then I grab him, with this hold, which is an old school Gracie self-defense thing. Basically scissor swept him, got on top and mounted him and just put my chest on him. And I said, what are you going to do now, right? And at the time I was a new blue belt, I didn't know that I knew how to do all that stuff. But we learned this thing, but you can't do it to people that know what you're doing because you don't have the skill yet, right?
Yes.
But to someone who doesn't know what's up, it
feels easy.
Those were moves I had never done on the mats before, but I knew how they worked and I trained them.
Yeah.
So that when you're in real life against the uninitiated,
it feels easy.
It's part of your part of your body mechanics.
100%.
It is mentally what you do. And like I've been learning that through getting the opportunity to teach. I know how to do all kinds of shit that I don't do.
That you don't do.
And like I can do them pretty good.
Yeah.
It's just doing them to somebody who knows what's up is the hard part.
It's the hard part.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So adding to that, the self-defense aspect of jiu-jitsu, whether it's sport or whatever, I think that's a huge benefit. And then the confidence. Like, I'm sure you get, like, after that situation, your confidence was like, oh, damn. Like, all right, got a little confident there.
I've always been a confident person, but now that I train, it is. I was, again, talking to Sensei James the other day. That motherfucker walks around. That fool's 5'2" ¼ 200-pound fool walks up. He's like 10 foot and he walks in the fucking room. Chest up, head up, ready to rip.
So the next
That's how I walk around, too.
So the next part about why you should start, and I'm hit or miss with this, right? It's like building strength and flexibility.
I'm still not flexible, dog.
I have an opinion on this, and then I'll give my opinion and you can give yours. I think that if you start jiu-jitsu, you're going to get healthier no matter what. Just training, right? Just if you're coming out overweight, out of shape, you're going to get better. Are you going to become an athlete? Are you going to become superhuman? Are you going to become fast and skinny just training jiu-jitsu? No, absolutely not. It's not going to happen. But you are 100% going to be healthier than you were when you previously started from a...
I don't know about healthier, but stronger for sure.
Healthier and not. You'll be in more pain, but you'll be healthier.
But you're going to be stronger.
Like your heart health, your cardiovascular health, those things are going to be improved.
But what's your excuse? Because I know it's going the other way for you.
Listen, Linda. But I think that what it does do on top of that, if you were to only do jiu-jitsu, you're going to improve those, like cardiovascular health, your heart health, all that stuff. You're probably not going to potentially lose a lot of weight, all this other stuff. It happens, but I think more than anything, what happens is it drives you to be better because you want to be better at the sport, and you start thinking about what outside things can I do to make me better in the gym, right? Whether that's eating healthier, whether that's getting more cardio in, whether that's lifting, whether that's stretching,
I gotta start stretching.
meditating, like whatever it is. At some point, you're like, man, I really like this. I want to be better at it. I'm not gonna be world champion, but I want to be the best version of me when I go out on the mats.
I think that's the most important thing, is being the best version of you.
Yeah, and it drives those external factors to make you want to be better and make you want to be healthier. And for me, I think that is one of the biggest benefits, right? Like you go, if you go to a school event or whatever, and you see all these dads or whatever, and all these other parents, they're not out there doing anything. They're not doing anything. They're not working out. I mean, some of them are, but for the vast majority of people our age that are dads that are out there, they're not.
But it's like the dudes that work out to look good naked. What are you gonna do when you start some shit with me in a bad position and I'm fat and out of shape and I whoop your ass? I whoop your ass while I'm breathing like a fucking bulldog, fucking being sloppy. What are you gonna do then? Then you're gonna get on the fucking mats. Weight training to weight train is stupid.
But it even makes it strength with jiu-jitsu even makes it
better
10 times more.
Yeah.
Because now you know how to apply the pressure, how to apply the strength. Yeah. You're not just brute forcing things. You're smoothly transitioning things into positions where now I use my strength. It's a multiplier.
It's a multiplier to
It's a multiplier to your technique, not just strength. Like you said, you go get someone that just lifts super crazy strong, but they have no technique. Shit's just not gonna work. They're gonna get tired. But now you add strength to someone that knows the technique. Yeah. It's a multiplier to your jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So,
don't get me wrong. I bulldog almost everything I do. Everything's bully style. I don't do anything fucking with grace or technique. Everything is bully.
Yeah, I agree.
You're lucky I stopped lifting.
I agree with that.
Everyone's lucky I stopped lifting. I gotta get back to it though. Everything hurts right now, dude. Everything hurts.
And then, so outside of like building strength and flexibility and that potential health benefits, I think one of the biggest things is mental toughness.
For sure. I think the mental toughness, mental clarity, and also building community. I was talking to Omar about this the other day. It's like, I mean, Omar's from fucking Brazil. He didn't know anybody here.
Yeah.
You're from San Diego. I'm not from anywhere around here. Like, I know more people today than I have known in the last 20 years.
And it's not just knowing people, too. It's people that you can count on.
Yeah, for sure.
Like we have a group of friends
that
if you can count on. And not how do you want to say, like, they're not just acquaintances.
They're dependable people.
Yeah, they're dependable people.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. But then, like you were saying, developing that mental toughness is also, like, when you're in a bad, uncomfortable position and you have to go into this, like, special area in your brain and you just tell your brain to shut up, stop panicking, to breathe, to focus. Like, I was watching yesterday I was watching Thin House. Mm-hmm. And one of the white belts in our gym was he was getting bow and arrowed. It's pretty bad.
Ooh.
He was pretty bad, and he's almost gonna tap. And he's like looking at me, and I was like, hey, I need you to breathe. I need you to relax, and I just need you to just relax. This is gonna pass. Just remember that this is gonna pass. You're gonna get out of this. No, he got out.
Oh shit.
Yeah, he was able to get out.
I wish he would have went to
sleep. But he almost tapped.
Really?
But he like focused, and then he was like, boom. And then another moment, he was in a bad position, and he had his eyes closed. And Carol's like right there coaching him, and she's like, open your eyes. And he opens his eyes, and then she's like, blah, 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 do this. And then he did it, and it worked. But it's like...
I grapple a lot with my eyes closed.
I mean, I don't know what I do.
Especially like when I go... Because deep half is facing backwards.
Oh, yeah. Deep half.
But when I go into the deeper version of half guard,
with your
I
eyes,
close my eyes. Yeah.
But anyways, it's that it builds that toughness of like, this sucks. And but there was this to bring an analogy, I saw You know, there's this YouTube video where they bring a bunch of actors together around a round table. I think it's called a round table.
Yeah, sure.
And Tom Hanks was on there. One of the things that I've taken to heart that he was talking about, which is kind of crazy, is he had this saying where everything is this too shall pass.
Yeah.
So
until someone's doing fucking Portuguese knee on belly on your sternum and they're fucking hitting you with a can opener, that ain't gonna fucking pass.
this too shall pass.
Something's gonna break.
But eventually,
Kyle.
That just gonna break.
That is a submission.
But it builds that mental fortitude, and it does. I think, to an extent, I think a bit people overemphasize of how it impacts the rest of your life and it makes the rest of your life easier. Does it? I think it can.
Physically, it makes your body worse, but mentally, you are strong.
Makes you tougher. Yeah.
You are strong.
Yeah. 100%. I think you also learn how to deal with confrontation better. You understand because you're not worried about pressure. You're not worried about.
So when I'm sober, I am the most mental clarity person. I can diffuse any situation, but you give me a couple drinks, I'm ready to fucking rip your goddamn head off. I'm trying to get stripes for the streets. You know what I'm saying?
So now we kind of talk about some of the benefits and stuff. When we talk about getting started in jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah.
I guess the first step is finding a gym. Like, what would be your? Let's say you're looking for a new gym. What are the things you're looking for?
I'm not looking for a new gym.
No.
Let's say for a gym.
A gym. Yeah. What are the things you're looking at when you're looking at a gym that you feel are going to be good green flags, not red flags?
Well, there's no green flags day one, right? So day one, the most important thing is walk onto the mats. Get onto the mats, see what's up, right?
Yeah.
The only red flag was if they just say, put on a gi and let's go fight everyone, right? I think that would be a red flag. But every gym I've ever heard of does some sort of intro class. If they don't do an intro class showing you basics, go somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
But otherwise, you're not going to know until you see the culture. If it
vibes with you.
Yeah, the day one you might work in there and you're like, man, this place is awesome. And 6 months later, you're like, fuck, dude, this place sucks. Like, I'm stuck in this trap. Who fucking cares? Go somewhere else. You know what I mean? You have to. Everybody that's doing this, that's listening to this, they're adults. You got to do what's right for you. If that means change your gym, right? You got to find the vibes that works for you, because otherwise you're not going to grow.
Yeah, I think, like they say, a lot of people say the hardest belt to get is a white belt, because the first step to even get out there is very difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for me, I think the vibe in the gym is 100%. For me, one of the biggest things is, does it meet? Whether you're looking for a family-oriented gym, whether you're younger and you're looking for a fucking bunch of savages, like, it has to meet what your needs are in terms of that style.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that. So I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and this dude is a seasoned grappler. He's undeniable, right? And he's telling me where he trains jiu-jitsu at, and I was like, just curious, you're right in the middle of these two schools. Why did you pick this one over this one? And he's like, well, and they're the same team. It's the same team school. And he was like, well, I picked this one because you go in there, it's a good environment, it's a family aspect. If you want to be old and you want to just train, you can do that. If you want to be a competitor, you can go in there and be a competitor. They got killers there, right? Or if you want to go in there and sit down a day, you don't feel like training, you can go in there. But you go to this other one, it's a warrior academy. Yeah. And everybody there are competitors. Even the low-level people are competing. The dads are competing. The moms are competing. This is more of a competitor school just because the environments that the professors created. One professor is a multiple-time world champion pushing people to compete. The other professor, I think, is just a black belt who wants to train and show people the art. And that's kind of where we're at in our school. Our school is right in the middle of that because we have that multiple-time world champion who's pushing everyone to compete. But if you don't want to compete, you don't have to compete, right?
Yeah.
You might get smashed by the competitors in our school, but most people, if you come in with a good attitude, we just want to work with you.
Exactly.
If you come in with a bad attitude, you're going to get fucking crushed to death, right?
Yep.
So that's what I think you should look for. You got to find a gym that fits your vibes, right?
And then I think the next thing is, once you're in the gym, is understanding what you want to focus on.
Yeah.
So every school, like you said, they're going to have their what do you call it? Your training guide. They're going to go through their methods of training. Yeah. But I think as their curriculum. I think the key for someone new is just to focus on, like, learning.
Just show up.
Just show up and focus on the basics. Learn what north-south is. Learn what side control is. Learn what the guard is. And then don't focus so much on submissions. I feel like when you start, you're so excited to learn submissions.
I know we've talked about this a bajillion times. At white belt, your goal should be to survive.
Yeah. Yep.
At blue belt, you should learn how to defend.
Yeah, we'll go with that in a minute.
Oh, okay.
I got that on here. We'll get
so
into
you're
that.
talking about like the fancy shit and the basics. I was talking to one of our dudes the other day. This kid's young. He's a great grappler. But he was asking me some questions, and he was like, "So, how do I do this?" And he was asking me a judo term, and I was like, "I don't even know what the fuck that is." And he shows me, and I was like, "Why would you do that? You're so good standing up. You have so many good, more basic techniques. Why would you want to do some hot shit?" And he's like, "Well, I saw J-Flow doing it," and I was like, "Yo, dude, like." J-Flow's been grappling his entire life. He knows how to do everything, and he knows how to do all the basics, and he knows how to do the hot shit.
And he knows the basics 100%.
It's like, do the basics first, because it's going to work for you. This kid's a stud.
Yeah.
And I'm like, focus on the basics, because when I roll with you, you'll whatever happens, we get down on the ground, and then you'll try some dumb hot shit, and then I'll get up and smash you to death.
Yeah.
And it's like, it happens every time. You've never submitted me. You've never even held me in a bad position for more than 20 seconds, because you get frustrated, you try some hot shit, and then you get crushed.
Yeah, yeah.
So focus on the basics. You'll be unstoppable.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh. I saw him trying to do some hot shit after that, but basics.
Live,
learn the basics.
Live and learn, right?
Let me say one more thing about that. So I was watching someone talk about, I don't even remember who it was, someone talk about Hickson seminars. This guy's, he's not a Hickson black belt, but he's under Hickson now. Hickson is like he's like the foster father of all these black belts promoting people now.
It's like the BJJ Globetrotters or whatever.
Yeah. So he's taking people that he's close with that maybe their professors have retired or for some reason they can't get ranked up. They get under his tutelage, and he's bringing people up now, right? Which is crazy, just to get lucky to do that. But he's talking about how Hickson does these seminars, and he has 10 levels of seminars. But not enough people practice level 1. So he'll teach a seminar, and he teaches to the level of the class. So it's level 1 seminar. And you'll be like, oh, cool, I'm going to go to another seminar with Hickson. And it's level 1 shit again. You're like, what the fuck? Why is he always teaching the same shit? And he's like, he's teaching to the level of the room because I teach this stuff. People don't go up. He's like, I've never taught a level 10 seminar because nobody learns the basics. He's like, you have to learn the basics first before you can level up, right?
Yeah.
You have to learn these things before you can get past that.
And it's hard these days or it's easy to get distracted.
Yeah.
With all the hot shit
Yeah.
that you see on Instagram and watching Pans and watching Worlds and watching ADCC. But if you look at those guys that are in ADCC, that are in CGI, that are at the very top, they have the basics mastered.
Yeah. But it's even crazy if you talk about like ADCC, then you focus on B team. Like B team do day 1 judo shit, and they destroy motherfuckers with it. And
Basics.
then once it hits the ground, then like Craig starts doing crazy shit that he's made up.
Stuff.
But a lot of it starts from this day 1 judo shit that they have mastered. Like they're teaching overhook, underhook, like heist versions of like Tayatoshi, Tayatoshi, and like Uchimata. They hit it on everyone.
Yeah.
They hit it on everyone. And then like Victor Hugo hit fucking Nicky Rod with a bullshit fucking either Tayatoshi or Uchimata, and then choked his ass from
choked
it.
him,
Like this day 1 shit works. Or at least it's the building block that you build your other things on top of.
Yes, 100%. Cool. So now that we've kind of gone through that, I'd say you can talk a little bit more about belts and like what to expect at each belt, right? Like from white to black.
Well, I can't give you a synopsis from white to black because I'm not there.
I was going to mention that.
Synopsis from white to purple.
Well, we can give you an idea. Is the idea, but yes, correct.
I'm a black belt in my heart, dog.
In my heart?
My heart is black. Homie. Black.
My heart is black. But from the very beginning, let's just say as a white belt, right?
Yep.
You are going to be completely overwhelmed by the amount of information. And I think my favorite analogy of white belt is when they start talking about languages. It's like learning a new language.
Sure.
Like you're going to come in and your body is going to not know how to move, how to react. And it's like teaching your body a whole new language. And you have to start with the very basics, which is learning your letters.
Sure. What are the letters, though?
I guess you're when you talk about learning your letters, it's learning like how to break fall, how to shrimp, how to back roll, how to forward roll. Like your body has to get into these movements.
And why to use them, I think.
And why to use them, right? Well, that's where it starts expanding.
Welcome to my fundamentals class.
That's where it starts expanding.
Yeah.
So as a white belt, you start there, and then you start building sentences, right? And then from sentences, you start building paragraphs, and from paragraphs, you start building papers and theses. Like it grows, it builds. They build upon each other. They're like, but again, we were just talking about it. You have to understand the fundamentals to build a solid foundation from the beginning. So as a white belt, you're going to tap a lot. You're going to be, you're going to feel like your game isn't improving. And I think this applies a lot to white and blue belts here, is that you're going to join a gym and you're going to be in with a group of people. And if you stay there, you're all going to train, and all of you are leveling up at the same time, whether you were friends with blue belts or other white belts. You're all leveling up. And you're going to go through this period where you're like, man, I'm not getting better. And it's not that you're not getting better. It's that everybody is getting better at the same time. Like everybody is training. Everybody's leveling up at the same time. So because everyone's getting better and everyone's skill is improving, it's almost like you have blinders on and you can't really see your improvements, because let's say you're struggling with this person. Well, as you move up and they're staying, right, they're continuing to change, you're going to keep struggling with them because they're improving, right? And it's just going to keep going if you're staying at that same level, right? And I think people get kind of trapped, or it feels it's confusing because you just feel like I'm not getting better. But the reality is you are getting better if you're training. Yeah. Right?
I think you're still talking about a white belt, right?
Yeah. White, going into blue, you start feeling
at white belt, you should just be surviving.
Yeah, surviving.
You should be focusing on what makes you survive. And what makes you survive are learning how to hip escape, learning how to 2-2, learning these basic jiu-jitsu movements that will get you out of bad positions. Yeah. And then learning that it's not the first hip escape. So, recently I've been seeing online that people call the 2-2 a hip escape. We don't call it that at our school. So
the 2-2 is a hip escape?
Some people call that a hip escape, and they call what we call a hip escape, they call that a shrimp, right?
Well, there's a shrimp and there's a hip escape. There's two different.
Yeah, but most people aren't going to understand the differences between the two, right? So you need to learn your language. As you're learning this language, you're building letters and you're building words and sentences, like John said. By the time you get to sentences, you should be knowing why these movements are important. They are not warm-ups.
Yeah.
A hip escape and a shrimp and break falls and forward rolls and back rolls and doing all these things, they're not warm-ups. They are jiu-jitsu movements that are going to help you survive, right? Learning that if someone mounts you and you hip escape one way and you didn't get out of the mount, you don't die there. You hip escape the other way. You hip escape back. You go back and forth until that you break their posture and you're able to pull your leg out or get your hip out, go back to the guard, go to the half guard. Maybe you got your hips so far away and they're falling forward, you push on their head, you 2-2, you stand up and you right? So you have to learn how this is. That's what white belt is for. White belt is the beginning of your journey, it's the base to your pyramid.
Yes.
Right? You need to learn these things. You cannot build an inverse triangle. If you build a pyramid upside down, it's going to tip over.
And I think that's where we start getting into the blue belt territory is, okay, I know what a shrimp is, I know what a front roll is, and then I know that if I do a shrimp versus a hip escape, like if I'm in mount, if I shrimp, I'm not creating any space. If I hip escape, I'm making space below me to get my knee in. Yeah. And when to use those techniques. And I think that's when you start getting into blue belt. When you get to blue belt, you start adding those and you're using them to get your escapes and get to those positions.
Yeah, and then you start to chain the things together. Like for me, if someone mounts me, I want to hip escape more than the shrimp. I want to hip escape and then try to get to the half guard. But if I can get my top knee up, I go into the knee shield. And then it creates a whole nother position that starts the sweep for me, right?
Yeah.
So you have to learn that these things chain together. That's what I was learning in judo this week was it's not the movement. It's the third, the fourth, the fifth movement that gets you going, right? You have to chain these techniques together.
Yeah, but I think at blue belt you're not there yet.
You have to, though.
I don't think
that's
so.
where you should be at blue belt.
I don't think so. I think blue belt you've got the fundamentals.
Well, what would you call after the fundamentals? I don't know what you would call that. What would you call the next step in fundamentals? You're not a master of these techniques.
You're not a master, but you understand.
So your second step in the fundamentals is knowing how to use them to chain together.
I would just say how to use them.
So when should you be learning how to chain these things together?
I think first, there's different stages to each belt, right?
Sure.
So as a brand new blue belt, you should have an understanding and you should start using them.
Yeah.
I think towards the end of your blue belt, towards the end when you're almost a purple belt, that's when you start learning to chain them together.
Yeah, they're still blue belts.
Yeah, but you're like right at the end because I really think purple belt is when you actually really start feeling confident chaining things together, and causing things to happen so that you're making reactions happen so that you can play off of them.
Dude,
but
we've been grappling so long now that I can't remember blue belt.
I think a blue belt is someone that just knows the fundamentals. They maybe don't know how to chain them all together yet, but they can use them and start implementing them to get escapes, to get to better positions, and things like that. So and you might have one or two that you're like, all right, if I hit this, I go here.
Yeah.
If I hit this, I go here.
Yeah. I think. Well, I'm not even talking about chaining going here. I'm thinking about getting out of positions.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I've told the story here before. This is when my mind was blown. I was probably like a new blue belt or a one-stripe blue belt, and I'm rolling Leo, and Leo's crushing my fucking soul. And I start to shrimp, I shrimp, and then I think I'm gonna get away, and then he crushes me, and I think he tapped me to pressure, some bullshit, fucked me up, right? And then after the roll, because Leo was really good at teaching, so after the roll, he was like, "Hey, why did you not switch from the hip escape into a 2-2?" And I was like, "Why the fuck would I do that stupid warm up movement?" And he's like, "It's not a warm up. You should have been pushing my head, pulling your hips back to either go to the guard, go to the half guard, or stand up." And I was like, oh, fuck. And it literally blew my mind. And from there, I started considering all of the movements we do, there's a reason for them.
There's a reason for them, yeah.
And that's what you have to remember, or you have to consider to think of. If you're a white belt and you're listening to this, start doing that shit now. If you can learn how to hip escape and do these things proficiently, you're going to be very hard to hold down.
These are the letters to your sentences.
Yeah. And then as you get to blue belt, you're starting to learn techniques, right? You're really starting to learn techniques. You learn these techniques, and then you learn how to implement them. Like, a good example is like, if I'm in side control, I can't just hit the paper cutter. I have to do all of these things in order to set it up. And those are the second set of fundamental movements. Like, here's a good example. When I'm in side control against guys who are strong, the way I used to hug the head always, and hugging the head, I'm stuck, and I can't really do anything except for hold them down and pinning them. But that's not how we win in our sport. I need to submit them or get to more points or something like that. So naturally, Omar showed it before. He showed a transition, but he didn't say this is not only a transition but a new position that you can hold people in. Which for me, when I go to side control, unless it's Josh is the only person I still hug the head on because I have to pin the fuck out of him. Because if I give him an inch of space, his legs are going to come in, I'm back in the guard. But I put my tricep, over someone's face, put my elbow on the ground, and my other hand blocks the hip.
Yeah.
Blocks the hip.
Yeah.
Now you
can't turn into you.
You can't turn into me, right? For me, it's a more dominant position, this version of side control. And that sets up my paper cutter. And if you're starting to break out of this version of side control, I have another one. I keep my hand pinned on the hip or on the back of the hip. Sometimes I'll put it like on your stomach. Sometimes I'll go over. But if I go over, I'm lifting your elbow up. If I lift your elbow up, you can't hip into me. You have no base to roll into me. And I think that's something we should point out. You should be based always. And that is level one of Hickson's thing is always base.
He talks about that in his book.
Always base.
Yeah.
There's a reason we use the triangle as a symbol for jiu-jitsu. You could take, what's the perfect kind of triangle? Isosceles?
I think so. I don't know.
You take the perfect version of a triangle, whatever one it is, and you turn it into a pyramid. And you can throw that thing, and it's always based.
Yeah.
You have to have base. When you lose in jiu-jitsu, it's because you have no base.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. So, anyways, purple belt. I think purple belt is kind of where you were talking about, where you start getting a lot more chaining together.
Yeah.
You start building your game.
I also think the purple belts in the gym are the killers. The purple belts are the killers of the gyms. Black belts usually don't care to beat you. Brown belts are just like, usually it's the grizzled brown belt who's like, yeah, let's
whatever.
go.
I'll go at your pace.
I'll go at your pace. The purple belts are the fucking killers of the program.
But I think at purple, though, you're finally building your game.
Yeah.
And what works for you.
Yeah.
I
think purple belt's when I really started building my game.
I tell a lot of people, I'm like, hey, you're going to learn more than you forget. You're going to forget more than you learn.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
I used to have a mean fucking bow and arrow. I used to bow and arrow everyone.
But at the same time,
Not no
you're going to learn what works for you.
Yeah.
Over time, and then your game is going to start developing because your body type is different than this person.
Yeah.
He may teach you something, and it may not work for you, and it's good to know it because if someone goes for it, you know how to defend it. But it might not work for you, and so at purple, you start building your game. You start knowing what you're going to do, what you like, what you don't like, what works for you, what works for your body type.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think purple belt is usually the guys that are just getting after it all the time. Like
all the purple belts at our school are fucking savages.
Yeah.
I can't think of one who's not a savage. Like, even like fucking Andreas punk ass came back after like a year. Jack Diesel.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna go light on this fool. This fool legit deep half swept me like in 3 seconds and tapped me.
He's always been good.
I know, but I was like, dude, I've been training. I'm on the fucking.
I'm
mats.
on it.
Dude,
Yeah.
the purple belts are the killers,
Yeah.
dude. Like, cause it's hard to lose it when you're even when fucking Pedro comes back every like 4 months. He's still good.
Yeah, he's still good.
At purple belt, your game is you've developed enough in grappling that your base is always going to be there. You're never not going to be a purple belt.
Yeah.
You might be out of shape, but you're not getting caught by white belts.
Yeah,
You're not getting caught on blue belts. You know what I mean? You could leave, come back 5 years later, like John, the one that just got his brown belt. He hadn't trained like in 5 or 6 years, and he was a tough roll from day one. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like he hadn't trained in years, and he came back. I remember the first time I rolled with him, and I was like, oh, he's a little bit older. He's probably in his mid-40s, maybe a little bit older than that. I grabbed him, he grabbed me, and I was like, oh fuck. You know, and I was a everyday purple belt, and he hadn't trained in years, but your body learns these things, and it becomes a part of your life. Yeah. You know.
Now, if we go, these belts, you know, we're not there yet, but I mean, I have some insight from our perspective.
Like I said, I'm a black belt in my dome, motherfucker. In my heart, black belt, homie.
I think a brown belt, your moves are very precise. You're like, for example, you roll with Misa, his sweeps, they're precise. He sets them up.
Yep.
And you know they're coming. And even though you know they're coming, shit you can do about it.
Or Josh. Like before
yeah.
Josh got that brown belt power, like we would go back and forth. He's super good, but now I can't.
Yep, super precise.
I don't think I've ever been on a good position since he's got a brown belt.
Yeah, I think brown belt, your movements are just, you're just even getting more refined and sharper. Your tools are sharp. Everything's just sharp.
Yeah.
And then, of course, at black belt, I think everything restarts.
Yeah,
I honestly feel that once you get to black belt, you don't get any more belts, but you're kind of restarting your journey because now you're in a different level where you could be a black belt and you can roll with someone that's in a black belt, but they've been a black belt for 30 years, 20 years, 15 years, and the level and the game is so different from one black belt to another black belt.
Yeah.
So I think it's. And I think as long as you remember that, I think that you'll be a black belt that'll continue to train because you find enjoyment in that.
Yeah. Also, I was talking to Sensei James yesterday. I wish I could have recorded the conversation we had yesterday. But he was talking about in judo how the black belt just signifies that you're a student. Everything else, these are fundamental.
It's like a college degree.
Yeah, it's like
what does a college degree show you? It just shows that you could go and you could sit and learn and
And now when you're a black belt, you learn. And I thought of this in my head as you were talking. Is like if you look at there's an honor in being a black belt of having an old tattered black belt. It's kind of lost its popularity, I think, right now because the new fancy belts with the embroidered stripes and all that shit. But when I first met Omar,
his old
belt was white. Mm-hmm. It was literally disintegrated to the part where it was white. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a good it's a good like thing to think about is like it just shows that you're going to be a student again.
Yeah.
He's continuously being a student, and like most of the time, Omar's teaching our class, and he is the king of knowledge. But then you'll have like the other day we had Gato come in and show some shit, and he was asking him questions. He was learning, or like
he continues.
When Pato and and Taliesin came. He was asking questions and then talking to the other guys about it and asking them to break down the detail, why this works, how it works. I've seen him talk with Hoyler. How does this work? Why does it work? Like I've seen him talk with these other people who are also lifetime students of the game who are continuously learning, and he is still learning. I've never seen him say, that's not real, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
He always says, show me why it's real and how it works. And if you can prove to him it's real and it works, you know what I mean? And I've seen many other black belts the same way, right? I think it's the black belt who thinks that they know everything. Like if you go to like a McDojo, you go to like a mall karate school, the black belt is the king of authority and no one could teach him anything else. But you might, like you have Chris in our school. Chris, when he came back, I think he was a purple belt already, but Chris was a purple belt, demolishing upper belts. And you'll see Omar ask him questions about wrestling. Why do you do this? Why do you do that? Why do you do this? And like, Omar's not wrestling anymore, but he wants to be able to hand that knowledge to the next person. And he is so good at the sport we do, or the art that we do. He understands all aspects of it, and he wants to translate that to a student. So he asks the question. So he, again, is a student. He's always learning, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Yeah, and then I think before we close out, because we've actually covered a lot of information here if you're new, if you're interested in jiu-jitsu, but some tips to be successful in jiu-jitsu once you start. And I think there's more than this, but I think these are very important and key parts to success in jiu-jitsu. And one is listening and learning. Like listening when your instructor's talking and paying attention.
Not even your instructor, your peers.
Your peers.
I personally think
keeping your ears open.
Yeah, you're going to learn more from your peers and your instructor because you don't get the opportunity to roll with your instructor all the time, right? The instructor is there to guide your journey. Yeah. He's not there to tell you a journey. He's there to guide it. These are the things I think you should learn. Do they work for you? Do they not work for you? That's up to you, right? But your peers who you roll with and train with learn your game, and they learn how to stop it. And they know the things that are going to make your game blossom because we see the holes. Yeah, if you're fighting a lower belt, we see the holes in their game. Like we have a student who's a great dude. He's starting to come up. He's starting to get confidence. He was telling me some shit, and I was like, stop doing that shit. It doesn't work. And he's like, but it does. And I was like, okay, well, who does it work on? Other people my level. Well, that doesn't work.
Yeah, that doesn't work. Yeah.
You have to be able to do it to higher level people for it to work. And you need, and I'm not saying I'm the authority on this, but I'm not telling you what you should do because I want to be the boss of you.
Yeah.
I'm giving you ideas of what you should do so that you're a better training partner for everybody.
Yeah, 100%.
So that your game advances. You know, I was lucky enough to have a couple of mentors like, you, other people in our game that have opened my game up, right? And now I've been training for so long that I'm ready to help you open up your game. Especially, I can't open up a higher belt, but or someone that's on my level.
I think you can.
But I can definitely help white belts.
I think Big Dan was talking about this. Or no, was it Big Dan? Who was talking about it? I forgot who was talking about it. But they were basically saying when they were coming up, I think it was Victor Hugo was saying that what he did as he was advancing is he would watch people and he would be like, this person only has one move, but they know that move. Yeah. And he's like, so I'm going to learn that move from them. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, it was
and
Victor
then
Hugo. Yeah.
I know this person has this move, and I'm going to learn that move from them.
Yeah, you listen to the BJJ you listen to those podcasts?
Yes. So he was like, I know they know this move, and they have it down.
That was on the Flow podcast.
So he learns all the moves, and now he knows all the games, and I think that's what it's about. So just because, I'm sure that there's like Little G. He can show you some shit. He's a blue belt. You can learn from him. You can learn from a blue belt. You can learn from a purple belt, even if you're a higher belt. Yeah. Like there's certain people just have certain techniques that they've just really honed in on and mastered, and I think you can learn it. But it goes with the listening. Yeah. It's like open your ears, listen, be malleable. Yeah. To adjust your game based on advice or some direction. Someone's like, hey, maybe you should try this.
I've even seen Omar ask me about the lasso.
Yeah.
So Omar's game is not lasso, and somehow Misa developed this lasso that works. It's unstoppable. I've never seen anyone stop it. Have you seen anyone stop his lasso?
I mean, I've seen people
Like recently?
every once in a while you'll
I've
see
never
it,
seen
but
anyone stop it.
it's usually 100%.
Yeah, so he's asked him the details of what he's doing about the lasso.
Yeah.
And again, he's learning.
He's learning.
He realizes that the lasso is not part of his game. Omar is teaching you his game, and he's teaching the overall jiu-jitsu, but a lot of it's focused around his games. That's why you go to other schools and they teach you shit that it's like, I've never fucking seen that before, right?
And then I think one of the biggest things is being consistent.
It is the biggest thing. Nothing else matters except for getting on the mats.
Yeah, and pushing yourself. And when I say pushing yourself, I mean there's going to be times that you just don't feel like training.
Yep.
And you're going to try to find any freaking excuse in the world to not train.
Yep.
And you just need to tell it shut up and you just go train. Just be consistent. I personally, I think
what we do is we train every day, 4 days a week.
I think personally, my opinion, 3 days minimum is required to be growth. There's going to be times where you can only train once. There's going to be times where you can't train at all for a week or two. There's going to be times where you can only go in a day.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I think that's part of the ebb and flow of being an adult and training, or just training in general.
And you need to think about it like this. You eat lunch every day. You need to train jiu-jitsu every day, right?
Yeah.
And if you can't train because you're hurt, or you're not. If you don't come in if you're sick, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
But if you're hurt, and you're mentally not feeling good, come and sit and watch.
Yeah, come and sit and watch. And that's something that I think I've seen people do a lot, and I also think it's good. Like when I've been hurt, I'll go and watch. I'll be like, I tell the boys, I'm like, hey, you guys are still going to class, and I'm going to go and watch, and I'll just sit and watch, because you can still gain a lot of information watching Omar, watching someone teaching the technique, just sitting there. It's just like watching the videos or whatever.
Yeah.
And also watching people roll. Like I like studying.
Yeah.
I love watching our team when I'm there, watching our guys roll, because I learn watching them roll too. Like we were saying, Misa's really good at the lasso. I'll watch him and be like, what is he going to pull out? How did he fucking do that? Or watch Josh go for X guard, or whoever you want to watch. You can learn a lot from that.
Yeah.
So, but you have to be there.
I watch the rolls when I'm in class too.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
While I'm there, if I'm not rolling, I'm watching.
Sometimes there'll be rolls I want to watch, and Omar will pick me, and I'll be like, let me wait this one out.
Yeah, I do that too. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is ADCC right here.
Yeah, and don't turn down rolls. Roll with everybody.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then embracing the learning process and just having fun. It's gonna suck. There was that video I posted on our 40 and Fighting Instagram. If you guys don't follow it, go follow. But it was what's his name? What's the guy that play Bane?
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy's walking into
like it sucks.
to some event, and some guy goes, "Hey, how's your jiu-jitsu training?" And he goes, "It sucks." And that's the truth. That's how you know that motherfucker's training, because there are times
smash Tom Hardy.
because there are going to be times when it just sucks.
Yeah.
But you have to embrace that. You have to embrace that as a learning, and embrace the suck. Or how do you say? Be comfortable.
You have to be comfort in the uncomfort.
There you go. Anyway, that's all I got. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you guys are looking at joining jiu-jitsu, thinking about joining jiu-jitsu, hopefully this will push you over the edge with a lot of good stuff from my experience, and I think his.
Did you put these little emojis here?
No, they were already.
Oh, okay. I was
we discussed this, ChatGPT,
okay.
my friend.
My friend.
It's been an amazing journey for me. I don't see myself stopping. I don't think he's stopping. And so go do it. Just go do it. Don't think about it. Be about it. And don't be a bitch, right?
Go train judo. Smash everyone.
Peace.